Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Real Stuff podcast. Today's guest is Carly Riordan. If you want to find her on Instagram, she somehow got the handle @Carly. So easy to look her up. You will find her immediately. And today's conversation goes very, very deep into the creator economy. I think this is going to be a very interesting episode for anyone out there who's curious about content creators and bloggers, and specifically the whole monetization side of this. Carly is one of the earliest fashion bloggers. She used to be known online as Carly the Prepster, and this girl has just been through it as a content creator in terms of coming up and starting her career in the social media scene, having some really horrific trolls and haters who just want to see her fail in all things in her life, but also making a lot of money in this field and being incredibly, incredibly successful. The stuff we talk about regarding affiliate links and affiliate revenue and the type of money that she makes from selling other brands' clothes and products is just fascinating and mind-blowing to me, and so very different from my standard monetization structure as a creator. And just to give you some background here, so most of my money as a creator comes to me through brand partnerships and sponsored content. And that would mean like a brand is paying me a set flat fee to create a piece of content for them, whether it's a YouTube video, an Instagram reel, a TikTok, an Instagram story, something like that. But there's a whole other way to make money as a content creator, and that is through sharing affiliate links. So in that case, the brand doesn't pay you to post anything. You only make money if you sell the product. So you can create a custom affiliate link through a number of platforms. Sometimes the brand gives you an affiliate program that you could do through them directly. And you will make, anywhere from 5% to 20% of the sale of that product if you sell it. As a person myself who is not a fashion blogger, I'm not a blogger at all, affiliate links have always been a very secondary part of my business. So I've made some money through them, but it's never been a sustainable amount to really be the bulk of my business. And Carly has just figured out how to make so much money by sharing affiliate links. As a true fashion blogger, the figures that we get into in this episode are just wild. And lastly, I want to encourage you to listen through to the end of the conversation, because we really start with money, but then we dive deep into mental health and online trolls. Carly gets very personal with us. I hear her share a lot of stuff that she hasn't shared before, and truthfully, I kind of wish that that part comes first in the conversation, but we were having too much fun getting real about money. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this episode with Carly. If you're listening and you're loving the show, please consider leaving a 5-star rating and review on Apple or Spotify or on YouTube. And if you're liking these conversations and you do so, please send me a screenshot of your review, and I will send you a personalized thank you message over Instagram DM as a thank you for taking the time to do that. All right, let's get into today's episode with Carly. You really are an old school blogger. I mean, we're talking 2008. I was in high school when you started blogging.
I know. It's crazy. I was an actual teenager, like I think I was 19. And I just can't believe, like, I started something in my teenage years and I'm still doing it now in my 30s.
From the start, was your blog fashion?
It was definitely fashion focused because, I wasn't making money from it. There was no like monetization. But the reason why I started my blog was because I had really struggled emotionally and socially to fit in college. And I was at a really dark place, which we can get into if you want, but it was like just a really terrible time in my life and I needed a creative outlet. And I don't think I realized it at the time, but looking back, I was absolutely sharing my college experience of how I wish it was going, even though in reality, like I was struggling. And I was open about my struggles to a degree, but I was really more trying to portray this like college life of like, what am I wearing? What are my classes like? What am I doing with my friends? Kind of willing it into existence, I think, like faking it till I made it.
Are you saying that the blog was you writing, here's what I wish was happening, or you writing, here's what's happening, even though it wasn't true?
Yeah, no, I was writing it as if it was happening, and it wasn't that I was lying, but I was definitely painting this like picture of college life that behind the scenes, I just wasn't feeling like good or confident, and I was really struggling. And I think it was actually like a really healthy coping mechanism for me because I was able to look at the good things even though there were all these like negative and terrible things that were happening in between my ears, for lack of a better phrase, I was writing about and I was focusing on the positive externally. And I think that actually helped me like see the good stuff and like actually have a good college experience. And I don't know if I would have had as positive of experience over time had I not focused on that good stuff.
I do want to get into what was actually happening. What was the darkness that was consuming those college years?
So it was my freshman year, and I had gone to a really competitive public school in Florida. And my entire identity, not because I, chose it for myself, but it was kind of put on me by teachers and my parents. And I guess I was kind of like putting the pressure on myself too, my friends, of like being really smart and being really driven and doing well academically. And that is how I saw myself. And that is how I thought other people only saw me. And then when I got to Georgetown, I'm looking around thinking, oh my God, like everyone here is really smart and everyone was a valedictorian and everyone was the captain of their soccer team and did college level courses when they were in middle school. And all of a sudden I'm sitting in the classroom thinking like, oh, there are people in this classroom who will run for public office. Like when we're, in our midlife, like I thought, well, who am I? Like everyone's smart. And I struggled with that. I'd never been away from home. I think I'd gone, I'd done like sleepovers, but I had not like gone to a summer camp. I went through a very late puberty, which I think there's a reason why like kids should go through puberty in 7th grade, because you have a long time to be like under your parents' roof while you're dealing with all that. So just kind of like a perfect storm of things happening. Oh, and it was the financial crisis was happening, and I was in the business school. Not that I blame the teachers for it, but they probably were not as helpful as they could have been, because they would walk I can remember like clear as day on the first day of school, we walk into the classroom, the professor walks in and he looks around the classroom and he goes, all of the seniors that were sitting in your seats 3 months ago, they graduated with their cushy jobs at Lehman Brothers, all got canned this morning. And he was like, good luck getting a job. I had always had anxiety, and then my anxiety like really took off at that point.
So you start this blog and you're kind of willing the life you want into existence. How does that translate to you starting your first job at a tech startup?
I wanted to do my blog full time. I saw the potential in it. And I don't blame my parents because it was so unknown at the time. But my dad looked at me and he was like, absolutely not. Like you need a job. And I do understand where he was coming from. And I think part of it was really hard to articulate when you're in it. Like I just had this really good gut feeling, and I'm not a risk taker at all. Like I want to be like abundantly clear. I'm a very cautious person. I think things through. But my dad was like, no, you need a job. And I kind of like let these external forces get into my head of, I guess I do need a job. Like, oh, this would be crazy to do this. I had met some girls who had gone to the GW, which is a school down the street. And one of the girls had interned for this tech startup. We must have been in New York for some reason, like all together. I came up to New York every weekend pretty much from school because I just hated school. I was like ready to leave. And my senior year, and they connected me with the tech startup, and one thing led to another, and somehow I ended up with a job working there.
And to be clear, your blog had made no money when you were in college. It was just for fun.
I was starting to make money in college, but certainly not full-time income, and certainly not live in New York City on your own level of income. But I had started monetizing, I think my junior year of college in 2011. Affiliate links started becoming a thing. And like I was making $100 a day, which was, felt like a lot of money at the time, especially when you're in college. It doesn't feel like work, when you're doing it in between classes. And I did feel like there was a potential to make more money, especially if I wasn't a student, because, I was doing my blog like at night. And I sold like little banner ads on the side of my blog. Like, every month I would invoice the company by hand, essentially like making mock-ups of like invoices in Microsoft Word. It was very low budget on my end, but I was like figuring it out. People used to ask me like, well, how much are you like, how do you know how much to charge for your banner ads? And at the time I had chosen like an arbitrary number that just felt right. I was like, $60 a month sounds right. Like $2 a day. And I
$60
think
a
I'd
month? Oh
gotten
my gosh.
that for like one little, but it was on there at all times. Like
Right, for a whole
anytime someone
month.
would see it. But over time, those banner ads, like it would get to the point where 10 companies were saying yes. And I thought, well, there's only space for 5. So I have to keep increasing my price until I only have 5 people saying yes. And I think maybe that's where I started to feel like, oh, this is a real marketing value add.
So your first role at this tech startup, what was your starting salary out of college?
So I think I was working for 1 month part-time because I told them I still wanted to be able to do my blog. And I want to say I was getting paid for that month as if my salary was $45,000 a year. Someone left the company and all of a sudden, like I filled in for her role. I went full time then. So they bumped me up as if it was full time. I think I was making like $60,000 a year.
So I read an article about you that fast forward now to your last couple months at this tech startup. One of the reasons you quit and were able to kind of go off on your own is because at a certain point, the income that you made from your blog in 1 month was twice as much as your monthly income from the salary from that tech startup job. And that full amount was like, I don't know, making $10,000 in just affiliate commissions for that 1 month.
Yeah, I think it was actually that I had made $10,000 in like a week because it was the Nordstrom anniversary sale. And this was before like everyone and their mom was on affiliate links. I was also extremely, extremely strategic about linking, and it has gotten progressively harder. But I would figure out like what is the one item that my followers are going to buy. I would focus on one link and just go really hard on that one product. Whereas I think now, like you're throwing up 100 links in the hopes that someone buys one. My strategy at the time is like focus on the one that's going to convert the best. I know I made $10,000 from the Nordstrom anniversary sale, which was only like a 5-day, if that. I think it was like 2 days. It was a really short window. Now there's like tiers and it's gotten to be a whole different ball game. But man, at the time it was nuts. And I remember thinking, oh my God, like I just made $10,000 and I'm only making $5,000 at my job. And I'm also not doing this full time. I'm doing this at night when I'm like exhausted.
Right.
So like what would happen if I just quit my job?
Is this purely happening on your blog and it's only hosted on your website, or were you using Instagram? Was Instagram even around?
Instagram was around, but there was no stories. I did do Facebook a little bit and I would run ads with my affiliate links, which I don't even know if like you're allowed to do that nowadays. I feel like there's more rules on like what you are and aren't allowed to do. The Tory Burch riding boots were like my number one bestseller for 5 years. So I would make a graphic of me wearing my Tory Burch riding boots, say, you know, how much they were percentage off. And then I would just run an ad targeting people who like Tory Burch on Facebook. So that was definitely helping. I used to do it for like Diane von Furstenberg. I would like pick very niche brands and just like really drill down into it.
That's something that's definitely not allowed today on social media.
It was definitely not.
Yeah, you can't run an ad with any sort of affiliate link. You know, once you realize, oh my gosh, I made $10,000 in that week, and this, if I dove into this, I could really blow this out of the water. So you ultimately quit your tech startup job, and now you're full-time in this blogger space trying to figure it out. In those early days, how much of your revenue comes in from you posting about brand products and making an affiliate commission versus how much of it is a brand just paying you the way brands pay creators today to just pay per post?
I want to say at the beginning, it was pretty much sponsored content. So like brands paying me to post, but mostly because like not every website was on into the affiliate marketing. Like now it would be crazy if a website isn't tapping into affiliate links. I was almost exclusively using at the time reward style, which is now like to know it.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'd been on it since 2011. Amber Venz like personally called me and, you know, invited me to join this platform. And I was like, sounds great. Like sign me up.
Even though you made $10,000 from that one Nordstrom affiliate thing, in general, once you started blogging on your own, you were pretty much doing brand sponsorships.
I was making so much from the sponsored content that like the affiliate links to me were just kind of like the icing on the cake. Affiliate links are tricky as an influencer because you can really quickly lose trust of your audience. If you're saying that you like 100 things and you're linking to all these things and every day it's changing, like what's your favorite thing? At a certain point, it's like, well, people are they might still be buying your links because it looks interesting to them, but they're losing you as, for lack of a better word, like influencer, because they don't actually trust you. I'm not saying like I have better integrity than other people, but one, I don't personally go out and shop and buy 70 colors of sneakers so that I have a different sneaker to wear with like my workout clothes. Like I am going out and like figuring out what sneaker is going to be like my workout sneaker until I wear them to the ground, which I think like lends itself to having trustworthiness with my audience. But it's probably like shooting myself in the foot a little bit with in terms of affiliate links.
So let's get into how much you were making from those brand partnerships at that time. I assume, maybe I'm wrong, that in those early days you didn't have representation yet and you were still sort of managing yourself?
Yes. So I think I was making probably like $2,000 for a blog post, but it would be more like now it's just kind of like, we're going to pay you X thousands of dollars for like an Instagram and like, boom, you're done. At the time, it was more, felt a little bit more organic, where like a post would be sponsored, but there'd be like more stuff like happening on the side, partly because you had more time to do it. You were only putting out one post a day and one Instagram maybe a week. Like you weren't throwing up 40 stories a week and like 6 reels and stuff. So you would kind of like build out this like more robust plan. I like quit my job and I went like full-time officially on October 1st or something around there. October is like the best time to start working for yourself because it's the fourth quarter.
Yes,
I had no retail
the holiday
experience.
season.
Did not understand that at the time. So it actually was perfect because, October I was floundering, just like stressed. And then November with Black Friday hit. And then you see the numbers just fly through the ceiling again. And that was kind of like that buffer boost confidence more than even financial that I needed to feel like this is something I could do long term.
I'm going to read this number, try to get it right. I read that in 2019, you drove $642,856.14 in revenue for J.Crew. For, I don't know if that was some sort of sale or, you just were really pushing 1 or 2 products from them. What was going on there with your partnership with J.Crew? Was that just an affiliate thing that you made a small sum of? Did they pay you as a creator influencer to do that partnership?
I don't actually think I was allowed to share those numbers. However, and I'm sure like any other time I would have gotten in trouble, but the reason why I explicitly shared that number is because someone at J.Crew decided, and I'm sure it was someone like really high up who didn't have their like hands in the numbers or like, their boots on the ground. It was probably a consultant who came in and was like, all this money is going out to this affiliate link. You need to make more money for whatever reason. Like they're fundraising again, or, they have debt that they need to pay off or whatever. Overnight, they just stopped with all affiliate links. A blogger had come out, an influencer, I don't even know, I don't follow her, so I don't remember what her name was, but she had come out and said, J.Crew sent me all these clothes, but I can't make any money promoting it, so I'm not going to share my haul. And like explicitly stated it on stories. And I do remember thinking, well, crap, like J.Crew is my number one retailer on affiliate links. And it's the retailer that I make the most money on. I need to figure out a way to convince them to come back for my own sanity, my own financial benefit. But like, also I love J.Crew. Like if they go off of affiliate networks and every influencer jumps ship, they are screwed. You need influencers. Like this is a part of the marketing ecosystem. And I was kind of panicking because I thought, well, my entire wardrobe is J.Crew. And I'm linking one reason why
to be clear, everyone, Carly's blog in the past was like all about preppy clothes.
Yeah. And like I'm wearing nearly head to toe J.Crew right now. It is a huge part of my regular, like if I was a regular person wardrobe, I would still wear J.Crew. I put on my story, I was like, this sucks. I will still blog about J.Crew because it is naturally what I wear. But like I had to go through my closet. This is not an exaggeration. I went through my closet. I got a rolling portable rack from Target, clothing rack. I pulled out every item that I owned that was not J.Crew that I could link to, that was like current or something similar online, because I still had to make an, income. And I hung it up on this clothing rack and I thought, this is what I have to make my outfits out of. And I can put in J.Crew pieces here and there, but like I've got to focus on these brands that I like and I already own, but that are on affiliate networks. And then I think I must have put on my Instagram story, like I did the math of how much I made from J.Crew affiliate wise over the course of a year. I think it was like the year before. And then, did the reverse calculations to see like, well, what's the revenue on that if that's my commission?
Just so that we don't have to do the math, can you share that number of how much you had made from the J.Crew sales in that year?
Yeah. So 10 times, 65,000, somewhere around there.
So I see why you're fighting for the cause to come back, because that's more than your whole tech salary from talking about one brand.
Exactly. And like, you do realize like how much more influence you have over, it's not just like selling product, but you can make kind of these statements like publicly a little bit. And I was kind of doing it like, please, like we cannot lose J.Crew. Like it's a staple in the American retail market. Like we can't lose them. And I think by the end of the next month, they were back on affiliate links. It's no surprise now that you see J.Crew sending out like big haul giftings to everyone on TikTok. Someone just recently, like a month ago, shared this dress and had read a review online, and J.Crew gave her a specific code to share on her TikTok about that one black bubble dress. Like their retailers get it now, and I think it's like for the better.
How many followers do you have on LTK?
I don't know. Can you have followers on LTK?
Yes, I'll go look for you.
Like I'm not a cool influencer. I'm really, now I'm a stay-at-home mom, but like I've never been cool. I've never been like the it girl. And I think I'm not someone who like the fashion world sees as someone who should have influence. Like I'm not like a runway model. I'm not jetting off to the south of France and like shooting high editorial photos. Like I'm sharing my real life with mirror photos. I'm not over stylizing my outfits. I'm wearing what I would wear in real life if I was not an influencer, which is why I think people like following me, because they can see themselves in those clothes. But even that reward style thing, there was a party for it, this launch. And I think if I wasn't number one, I was like the number 2 most followed person on that website. This girl who is on a Bravo show kind of came up to me and was like, I don't understand, like what's going on? Like, how do you have this many followers on this platform? And I had to kind of defend myself to this like Bravo reality star to be like, well, it's not just like, I get it that I'm not cool, but I have a lot of people following me and like people want to know what I'm wearing because I wear normal stuff that they can afford. There's different ways to influence people. And, now there's a lot more people who are influencing. So I would not be number 1 or number 2. But at the time I was really strategic about what I was doing. I was really passionate about like performing well. And I also really, really respected my followers, and like I would only share things that I felt passionate about. And I still do to this day. Like that's a core component of my business. And I think that has paid off. Even if I don't have 1 million followers on Instagram, it's like, you don't need 1 million followers. You need 200,000 really engaged followers.
I would like to refute the point that you are not cool. Well, first of all,
No,
I discovered that you have about 70,000 followers on LTK.
Okay.
And I would like to refute the point that you're not cool, because I think that is the beauty of the creator landscape these days, that you don't need to look a certain way or wear a certain style of clothing or be jetting around the world wearing the most expensive designer outfits in order to be influential to people, especially, as you said, the amount of value that is in everyday people wearing the actual clothes that are affordable to the everyday average person is out of this world. And you really capitalized on that moment. So as a creator myself, almost for the entirety of my career, I've worked with brands in more of a sponsored content capacity. And I started out by making stop motion animation content for brands that I wasn't even in.
Yeah.
And then I became kind of an influencer, making videos, more lifestyle content that I was in. But the affiliate side of things, I've shared affiliate links, and at this point in my business, I've gotten a little better about it. And there are certain platforms that I see more success on than others. But I never find that investing a lot of time into sharing affiliate links is going to be the main driver of revenue for my business. Do you agree with that?
Yes and no. I think sponsored content, you are just inherently going to make more money, period. But as you know, like you take your sponsored content really seriously and you're a producer and you understand all that goes into creating sponsored content. But I was kind of opposed. It got to a certain point where I was making so much money from sponsored content that it was just like easier for me to focus on like working with 5 brands a month or 6 brands a month and just like making that and then just having my affiliates be what it was, especially because at the time it was like, it's a little bit like a hamster wheel. Like you just can't get off of it. I don't know what exactly shifted, but then I realized like, oh, if I just press the gas a little bit harder on the affiliates, it's like just a little bit more effort makes a huge difference. And now I'm making so much more on affiliates than I was before because I put that little bit more effort into it. And it's not nearly as much as I'm making from sponsored content, but I can do it on my own terms, especially as a mom. I like not having to like get brand approval and that I can talk about this shirt exactly the way I want to talk about it, including saying something that's like not 100% positive, like, oh, I wish it was an inch shorter. Whereas if it was sponsored content, like you have very specific guidelines of what you can and cannot say. Like my affiliate covers all of my expenses. It covers what I pay my managers. It covers my rent. I have like this beautiful office space. I have 2 girls working for me who just focus on affiliate links at this point. So it covers all of their salary from me, all travel expenses, like really anything money going out. It's more than covered by what I make on affiliate networks. And then everything else on top of it is just like income.
You sound extremely entrepreneurial minded, and I assume this is just kind of the way you've always been. Can you talk a little bit about your upbringing and the way your parents talked to you about money and, you know, what your family's financial situation was?
My dad is like your typical entrepreneur. You know, he worked for a company when I was like a young child and we moved like kind of around the country. And then I think the company got bought or sold and he ended up leaving his job and moving our whole family down to Florida, which is where his parents were living at the time, just because they were getting older. I mean, I was like 9, so I don't know all the details, but he basically started a company. I didn't know any different growing up, but like my dad was always able to go to every softball game. He coached my sister's softball games. We traveled on the weekends to my sister's soccer games. Our lives revolved around my sister's sports events, but like my dad was always there. He worked at home. I actually think though, like my mom was quietly an entrepreneur in her own sense. And she was a classic stay-at-home mom, but she was super involved in all parent organizations at our schools. If she wasn't the president, she was the vice president. If she wasn't the vice president, she was the treasurer. Literally throughout our entire schooling, so much so that she was like the president of a foundation at our school after my sister and I had graduated. And my mom has ultimately started her own business, like baking out of our house now. So maybe it is in my blood. Like I get enjoyment out of like the business side of things. Like I think it's fun. I almost wish I wasn't like the face of things because that's like my least favorite part about it, which is ironic because that is the business. Like I wish I didn't have to look at another photo of myself. Like why am I the face of the business? But it's just at this point in my life, it's like the best job that I could ask for, especially like being a mom with like young children. It is the dream job. And sometimes I think like, what would I want to do otherwise? And I'm like, no, like this is as good as it gets.
So do you not like being on camera?
I think I do. I've always liked performing. I think it's very difficult like that it's my life. And I've become like way more protective over what I share. Like I barely share like any personal details at this point, but I think like a big reason why I got more followers at the beginning and especially had people reading my blog was that I was very open about things in my life. And I almost to a fault, like I started my blog because I was struggling in college and I ultimately like opened up about certain things that I'd been going through. And I remember my dad calling me and saying, you can't talk about anxiety online, which is again so funny. Like now everyone talks about mental health online. Like Simone Biles dropped out of the Olympics last round for like having what's it called, like the spinnies or whatever,
the twisties.
like,
yeah
the twisties. It's like no, like mental health is a part of the conversation, but at the time that I was doing it, it was my dad was like, people are going to read about that. I was like, no, I know that's the point. I want people to read about this. But it is, that comes with its own set of challenges. With a blog at the beginning, if someone wanted to like troll you, there was another blog at our school that popped up at some point, and it was like, oh, Gossip Girl was really big at the time, the show. And it was essentially Gossip Girl, but for Georgetown, called the Venus Flytrap. Mm. And she was this anonymous blogger. I ultimately figured out who she was. And honestly, to this day, I won't share her last name, but her first name is Kate. I dream of the day of running into her because she wrote this like scathing hit piece on me about like my whole blog. And everyone at the school was reading it. But my traffic after that day, I was getting like 50 views a day. I was like, had my Google Analytics live count up, and it was like 600 people at once on my website. I was like, I had to like, I was on this free Blogspot website. I'm like shocked it didn't crash. It was insane.
Thank you, Kate.
Yeah. Thank you, Kate. Truly, if I ever run into her, like sometimes I look up her online to see like what she looks like now. So if I ever do run into her, like I want to genuinely thank her. That was it was like a big turning point for my blog. Like if you didn't know who I was before, you did after that at school.
Now that our baby girl has arrived, we are spending lots of family time at home. We're taking it easy, fully embracing the slow pace of newborn life. And I am currently so exhausted, but I'm just trying to embrace the chaos over here. And baby Coco has been living in her magnetic me onesies. These onesies are so soft, they're sustainable, and they have the cutest prints designed by female artists from around the world. And they easily snap open and closed with magnetic closures, making changes so easy and totally free of buttons or zippers. All of my mom friends swear by this brand for the softest and the easiest magnetic onesies. These are also the gift that Michael and I have been buying for all of our friends whenever they have a new baby, because you honestly just don't know how annoying it is to button or zipper outfits until you don't have to use them, and then there's just no going back. And with babies, you change outfits so many more times a day than you would ever think. So the magnetic closures make dressing time quick and easy and save you so much hassle. If you have a baby or if you know anyone who had one recently, this is the best possible buy. Go to magneticme.com today and new customers will get 15% off their first order. That's magneticme.com, and I know you're going to love them. One thing that I remember you telling me when I first met you was this one incessant troll that you had to go to the police over. So I would like to dive into that as much as you're comfortable sharing about it. But as I was doing research, I did come across this thread on, I think it's GOMI, Get Off My Internets. Yeah. I don't know if that was like the old school Reddit or what's going on with that. I've never heard of that page. There are like pages and pages of people just being so mean about you on that. And I assume it's because you are one of the earliest successful fashion bloggers. Talk to me a little bit about how your mental health takes a hit with reading some of this stuff and what happened with that one troll.
So I will start off by going back to the earlier point that not only am I not cool, I am truly a like very boring person. And I just don't do a lot of things in my life. Like, this is how I've always been. Like, even in college, I was like, oh, I'm going to crew practice. I'm going to class. I wasn't partying. I wasn't drinking. I wasn't hooking up with people. I wasn't doing anything like controversial. So I don't actually know what happened. But I do remember the first time I found out about Get Off My Internets, which I call Go Me, Go My. It's like this whole, I don't know what it is, but it's what Reddit, the snark on Reddit like stemmed from, because what the Get Off My Internet's website, I think, became like an absolute cesspool, and people jumped and created their own threads on Reddit. So that was like the turning point for that. I used to keep my Google Analytics like on my screen. So I would like just track where traffic was coming from, namely because Pinterest was becoming popular. So I would see like what pins were going viral so I could like capitalize on that or whatever. One night I was like, where's all of this traffic coming from? It was like ticking up like very slowly, but then it was like quickly ticking up. And I thought, what is this? So I clicked over, you can click the hyperlink on Google Analytics and it brings me to this website. And someone had mentioned me in a comment on the page. And it was like one of the most vile, I think that comment was actually like pretty innocuous, but I started like reading other stuff on the website about other influencers, and it was like disgusting, mean, not just like trolls, but like absolutely vile stuff. And then of course, like you start digging around. It's like one of the worst designed websites you could possibly imagine. But like you're digging around and you're like kind of like piecing your way through the forest, like peeling back the layers and just getting like deeper and deeper into this like trash. And you find like a thread that is solely about you. And you are reading, or, you know, I'm reading about myself. One, things that were just like absolutely not true, but also these things like your deepest, darkest, like insecurities and thoughts about yourself. All of a sudden, people are like saying it back to you as if, like, oh my God, like I did think I was like this loser. And now someone's calling me a loser. Like I must be a loser because someone else has called me that. It was truly like one of the worst things that I could have done for my mental health at the time was finding this website. Part of the reason why I had really struggled in college, if we're going to get like really deep, is that I had gotten really wrapped up and like kind of addicted to like self-harm issues. And I was like working my way out of this as I was discovering this website. And I, you know, was like working with people to try to stop this physical self-harm. And I thought like, well, I found the cure. Like, I don't need to like do these other things. All I have to do is like read this stuff about myself. Like that hurts. That is way more harmful than anything I could inflict upon myself. And so I kind of replaced one addiction with another. And I used to read it so obsessive. Like I was obsessed with reading it because I also was like, well, I need to make sure I'm like staying one step ahead. And like, if they're saying that I'm doing this and like I'm annoying them, like I can't do that again. So I was like using it as if it was like market research, which is the dumbest thing because it's the worst market research to be pulling. But I was like not only reading it, but like taking it to heart, and like they became my internal monologue, was this like chorus of dissenters. Even if they weren't saying it, like I could hear as I was moving through life a narration as if trolls were just like constantly following me, like telling me as I was doing something, like, oh, I pick up my coffee to take a sip and it would be like, oh my God, she's drinking, you know, oat milk and there are animals dying in the rainforest because the oat is unsustainable or whatever. And I was like, it became my internal monologue. Ultimately, I had to just stop cold turkey, but that was after, you know, reading it for a decade. It's a relatively... Gosh. I stopped probably like right before the pandemic, like reading it in earnest because it was really messing, as you can imagine, like a very unhealthy thing to do. But people are like, oh, well, like, why do people hate you? I'm like, I don't know. I get like why other people and influencers, I don't think anyone deserves to get trolled. Sometimes I understand where the trolling comes from. But I'm like, I just genuinely like don't understand. I'm not like harming anyone. I'm like not doing anything crazy. I'm just like literally living my life. Obviously, like have worked through it in therapy. And one therapist, I was like, oh my gosh, I have these haters. She thought I had like lost my mind. She's like, I don't understand what you're talking about. And I was like trying to explain to her what was going on. And she was like, you know, over time, we kind of got to the bottom of it. She's like, they're not your haters. She's like, these people like actually are obsessed with you. Like, it sounds like hate, but she's like, they're probably some of your most engaged readers and audience members, which is true. It doesn't make it like easier to stomach. For me, I just have to avoid it altogether. It's like being an alcoholic. Like I cannot take a sip of it because it will cause me to spiral. Like I cannot go and look at it. Sometimes stuff trickles through. So like if I start getting DMs about the same thing over the course of 24 hours, and it's like people with animals as their profile, sunsets, or just like blank photos, and like no one follows me and they're all saying similar things, I'm like, oh, this must be what they're talking about. Sometimes people send me screenshots. Sometimes I have like distant family members or friends of friends who like bring stuff up in person, and I have to literally say like, oh, no, like I cannot hear this, like I cannot engage. I don't even want to know because it is so damaging to me, and I'm addicted to it. It's so harmful.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for opening up about all that, because I mean, that's really a long time to be putting yourself through this alternate form of self-harm. And I can imagine how you've been in therapy and have worked through it, that takes a toll on the rest of your life, and it takes a toll on your overall confidence. Just to be totally honest, you know, I've heard you now twice in this conversation tell me that you're not cool. And, you know, I'm assuming that's because you think of yourself as kind of just being an average mom who does, what is it called? Needlepoint. Like, you're not doing crazy things. But I have to say, you know, I too don't have any crazy defining characteristics about myself. I don't party and go out, and I'm not in Ibiza on the weekends, but I think I'm cool. And, I think you're cool. And I think that I really hope you get to a point where you see exactly who you are and exactly what your hobbies are and exactly the life you're living as being the definition of a cool person.
I mean, I'm living the life I want to live. I want nothing more than at the end of the night to literally like get into bed with my needlepoint and my Kindle. Like that is like my dream life with like, and my two children are like quietly sleeping in the room next door. I'm like, I cannot think of a better dream life for myself. Like that is it. This
But
is
I
it.
think
I'm
that's
100%
cool.
living in, which yes, there's a coolness to it.
There's no definition of cool. I believe to my core that someone being cool is basically just someone doing exactly what they want to do, living in their truth, and having
Okay,
confidence
then
for it.
yes. Okay, got to work on the confidence part, but everything else, check the box.
What about this one troll? Because I know that, negative comments on GoMe or whatever are one thing, but to have someone actually coming to your platform and then attacking it in public in front of all your other followers is another story.
So there's probably like 5 people that have taken it like too far. And I wouldn't wish this upon anyone else, but I do think it has been a good thing overall because I am 34 years old and there is nothing that someone could say to me that has not already been said. And there's like a freedom in that, and just understanding at 34 that I could do anything and someone's not going to be happy with it. And I've gotten to the point where I'm like, well, if I'm going to be hated and getting trolled no matter what I do, I want to be doing what I want to do and saying what I want to say and wearing what I want to wear. So there is like a major freedom in that, but it's definitely like challenging too when people just take it too far. I don't think anyone should be doing this. I've gotten emails from people apologizing for this kind of stuff and this kind of behavior, apologizing for retroactive, stuff that they've done in the past. And almost always they were experiencing a period of unemployment. They were going through some sort of breakup, usually with someone that they were living with, if not married to, or they'd had some sort of really traumatizing event in their life, like losing a loved one, not being able to get pregnant, something like really at their core that shook them. And it's not something that happens and is gone in a week. These are like extended periods of time where like people sink into like deep unhappiness. And I know what that feels like. Like I know what it feels like to be at rock bottom and to like not be in a good place mentally. So I have sympathy and I actually like empathize with that feeling. And yeah, I wish like people would find healthier coping mechanisms, like working out, finding a therapist to vent to, coming up with their own hobby of some sort. The fact that like hating on another person is a hobby and like is their outlet, is it makes me sad for them because you're not going to get in a better position if that's like how you're doing it. But I'm also not here to like change anyone's behavior. Like that is what it is. So for the most part, 99% of the people that are doing this, like I don't lose sleep over. I've had some people come to like in-person events. Transparently, I'm like much more concerned about men who have like ulterior motives coming to in-person events, which has happened. I'm like less concerned about like someone like just coming to watch me and stand in a corner kind of like a loser, like have at it. There's like bigger issues I have with in-person events and like being watched. But every once in a while, like someone kind of slips through the cracks and escalates it. And I've had like 5-ish people. I think they're all different people based on like how they're typing, but one person's just leaving. I haven't heard from her in a while. I think because I figured out where she worked and I called her and she picked up the phone and I have not heard from her since.
Oh, wow.
And then, you can like figure this stuff out. Like people are dumb and do it from their work computers and you can just find out where they're working. One person was like clearly like in Europe somewhere, like sending me just awful DMs via Facebook, which ultimately I escalated to the police because it was threatening my children, like without getting into details publicly, because it was just really disturbing. And once that was like handled by the police, like didn't really hear from her again. Just occasionally when like you could tell like she was going through like some sort of mental crisis, it would like pop off for like a night. She would send 14 messages that were just like deranged. And I think she was just trying to scare me. I don't think anything was like actually going to happen, especially because she lived in Europe. And I like recently had someone call and leave me a voicemail on my phone, which I did actually find very humorous. because what the content of it was funny. But then like after kind of the adrenaline and like, oh my God, what just happened moment wore off, like I actually felt really bad for the girl because it was like 8:30 on a Saturday morning. It sounded like she was inebriated. And I'm like, oh, this is someone who's been up all night, like probably drinking or otherwise. I'm like, I feel bad for you. Yeah.
I would like to use this moment to drive people and you as well to a TEDx talk that I gave in the past. An interesting story of a person that was trolling me one day, 45 comments on every single one of my posts just pouring in, to the point where I reached out to her over Instagram and said, it really sounds like you have a lot of feedback for me. Let me know if you would like to hop on a Zoom call, because if you have constructive criticism, I'd love to take it. And she accepted my offer and we got on a Zoom call together.
No.
And just like you said, it was an exact scenario of, well, first of all, no one says shit like this to your face. They say it behind the comment.
A keyboard.
The moment we are face to face, it was just hilarious how the conversation opened with like, the weather's been crazy. Like we're having all this light chat as if we're about to get into a meeting. And then finally I'm like, okay, we both know why we're here. I'd love to hear what you have to say because it sounds like you've got a lot of ideas and feedback. And she immediately broke down in tears, started crying, and proceeded to tell me that every high point in my life, everything that was currently a high that I had shared on social media in the past year, had correlated to a corresponding low in her life. My work was going well. She had lost her job. I was getting married and was newly married. She got out of a relationship. I had this thriving relationship with my family. Her family disowned her. A whole list of things that made me feel extremely sad for her, but also it was hard to look past the crazy, like a kind of person that would turn their own struggle into hating on someone is something I cannot relate to. But we ended the call in a very loving way. I, understood. I told her, I understand why you feel this way. She's kind of been a nice follower, like a little silent, but erring on the nice side since then. And it's just so true. These people who really come after you and are so aggressive are honestly the people who, A, have a lot of their own stuff going on, but B, are like overly invested and involved with watching you and really do want the things you have.
It's funny that you say that. I have not watched that TED Talk, but I will go and watch yours because I had something similar. This was probably like 2015-ish. And this girl was just sending me like the most nasty emails and like calling me a really horrible person. And finally just sent her my phone number. And I was like, call me. Like, you have so much to say. Just call me. And she like called me. I was shocked. I was shaking so bad because I could not believe that. I don't even like calling to order takeout. Like, I cannot imagine calling like an influencer especially one that I was like being rude to. I cannot imagine. So I was shaking so bad. And she like launches into this like, thing of like all these things of like that she wants me to change or whatever. And I said, I will let you say whatever you want to say, but you have to read back your last email to me first. And because it was so horrible. It was so horrible. And she, starts trying to say something else. I was like, no, I will let you say what you want to say, but you cannot say it until you read back out loud what you have written to me. She started, which again, I couldn't believe she had started it. And she got like halfway through a sentence. And, right when she's about to get to like the first, like really nasty word, just broke down. And she was like, I'm dealing, then she's telling me about like all this anxiety that she's dealing with and all this stuff. And I was like, okay. And she didn't have anything to say after that. I don't even remember how we ended the call. I think I was like shaking so bad I kind of blocked out the rest of it. But like, she could not say out loud what she had typed out.
Not that in some ways we're asking for it, but I understand that this is just the nature of a job on the internet, a public job, a job that is fun, a job that showcases our lives. Like, it kind of just comes with the territory, but it is unfortunate when the person on the receiving end of it already is going through their own mental health issues. It's hard to stack this stuff on top of that.
And then it becomes like a chicken and the egg. It's like, oh, am I having a mental health issue because something else, or am I having additional mental health issues because I'm like also getting this feedback? I'm not saying I'm perfect. Like, I make mistakes. I like hearing what could be done better. One of my favorite things about what I do is that someone can go onto my Instagram and say, you shared an outfit recently that I loved, but I tallied everything together and everything was $10,000. I wish you would also share more like mid-price ranges. I'm like, that's a totally fair statement. Like, just because my income allows me to buy like kind of whatever I want doesn't mean like my followers can. And like, that's good feedback. Like, that's good business if I know that I am sharing things that are too expensive. Ironically, though, you can also get the flip side if you share stuff from Amazon. It's like people are begging for Amazon stuff, and then you have people being like, I can't believe you would share like clothing from Amazon. It's like, you still can't win.
At a certain point, you kind of got to let go, because
you got to let go.
Either you're relatable and you're shopping for affordable things, but then you're in the fast fashion space and you're killing the world, or you are investing in high quality pieces that are unattainable and people can't afford, and that's your problem.
The reality is, like, our jobs are not relatable. Like, we are making more money than most people, and it is an unrelatable amount. And it's also like, we have unrelatable flexibility in our jobs. We have unrelatable yada yada. But if that like lifestyle creep is happening slowly, it's a little bit more palatable. My spending at 34 is obviously different than what it was when I was 20. Now, that would happen regardless of my job, presumably. I was a college student when I was 19. Now I'm a mom with dual income households in a very, affluent suburb right outside of New York City. Like, jobs are going to be paying more. That's just the nature of like this area. Most of my followers have also grown up with me and have more disposable income. Now they're also moms. Now they're like debating, do I want to work part-time? Do I want to work full-time? Do I want to be a stay-at-home mom? If you just blow up on TikTok and you got famous for sharing relatable content of like cleaning your kitchen and making like affordable meals, but then because you have this great success, and all of a sudden you can literally go from making a normal salary to making $100,000 in a month, and you whiplash your followers, and all of a sudden you have a house in the Hamptons and 6 cars and you have 4 nannies and you're wearing head to toe designer, you are going to lose what you have like established yourself as. And like, there's an evolution for anyone, up, down, but it's a forward trajectory. Like, there is change, there is growth, but you kind of have to grow with your audience. And that's something like I've been, I think I'm naturally like that. Like, I am not someone who's just going to go out and like, jet around the world. And I like the flexibility my job gives me of like being a part-time working mom or whatever. But I think that is something I'm like really conscious of. And it's kind of ultimately like how I started my blog. Like, what I'm doing today is not that different than how I started. And it's something I keep in mind.
This is why I really wanted to talk to you, because there is such a difference in this digital landscape between creators who came up the way you did as a blogger, and even the way I did as a Refinery 29 host turned into influencer, versus the world these days of overnight TikTokers, or even if it's not overnight, people who in the past few years have blown up and now are very successful at this moment. And it's, even just the world of how the money is made, and our mindset about the income, and our mindset about growing our businesses. And as you said, the longevity in the business, it's just so different. And I think you and I have very similar outlooks on it. I do want to offline. We are going to, as soon as this interview ends, we're going to offline regarding affiliates, because I will share with you where I'm at, and I'm sure I could learn a lot from you.
Trust me, I follow you. I've followed you since Refinery 29 days. Like,
you have?
Oh yeah. Watched every video. And then like, your TikTok, our sons are like the similar ages. So I think that's like probably when I like started following you on TikTok, because we were like both pregnant at the same time. I just like love talking about this kind of thing. And I feel like we are in similar positions, but would love to help.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show and being so open. These 2 topics, normally we do have a third pillar of sex and relationships, but today the money and the mental health really ruled this conversation. And I think we got a lot of incredible insights from you. So thank you, Carly.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I had so much fun and can't wait to keep following along on your journey.
Thank you so much for tuning in to The Real Stuff. I'm Lucie Fink. Don't forget to follow the show on social media at The Real Stuff Pod. And if you're liking these episodes, please head over to Apple Podcasts and leave us a written review. It helps the show so much. And if you're feeling called to come on the show, visit luciefink.com/apply and tell us your story. We'll see you next week for another intimate conversation on The Real Stuff.